There are 11 official languages of South Africa: Afrikaans, English, Ndebele, Northern Sotho, Swazi, Tsonga, Tswana, Venda, Xhosa and Zulu. Fewer than 2% of South Africans speak a first language other than an official one. Most South Africans can speak more than one language. Dutch and English were the first official languages of South Africa from 1910 to 1925. Afrikaans was added as a part of Dutch in 1925, although in practice, Afrikaans effectively replaced Dutch, which fell into disuse. When South Africa became a republic in 1961, the official relationship changed such that Afrikaans was considered to include Dutch, and Dutch was dropped in 1984. So between 1984 and 1994, South Africa had two official languages, English and Afrikaans. Different government departments and official bodies use different terms to denote Northern Sotho. In South Africa, Southern Ndebele is known simply as Ndebele, as most speakers of Northern Ndebele live in Zimbabwe. Since taking power in the 1994 election, the ANC has promoted English as the main language of government. Even if South Africans often take pride in using indigenous languages for any purpose, Afrikaans also features prominently in commerce together with English, as the languages with the highest number of fluent speakers are Afrikaans and English. In terms of linguistic classification, the official languages include 2 West Germanic languages and 9 Bantu languages. 4 of these are Nguni languages and 3 are Sotho-Tswana languages. Tsonga is a Tswa language. South African Sign Language is understood across the country, though sometimes sign language interpreters use manually coded language. Language demographics. The most common language spoken as a first language by South Africans is Zulu, followed by Xhosa and Afrikaans. English is the 4th most common first language in the country, but is understood in most urban areas and is the dominant language in government and the media. The majority of South Africans speak a language from one of the 2 principal branches of the Bantu languages represented in South Africa: the Sotho-Tswana branch, or the Nguni branch. For each of the 2 groups, the languages within the group are for the most part intelligible to a native speaker of any other language within the group. The 9 indigenous African languages of South Africa can be divided into 2 geographical zones, with Nguni languages being predominant in the southeastern third of the country and Sotho languages being predominant in the northern third of the country, located further inland, as also in Botswana and Lesotho. Gauteng is the most linguistically heterogeneous province, with roughly equal numbers of Nguni, Sotho and Indo-European language speakers. This has resulted in the spread of an urban argot, Htonl, in large urban townships in the province. Afrikaans, a language derived from Dutch, is the most widely spoken language in the western half of the country. It is spoken as first language by approximately 61% of whites and 76% of colored people in the country. Afrikaans is also spoken widely across the center and north of the country, as a second language by black South Africans living in farming areas. The 2011 census recorded the following distribution of first language speakers. Other significant languages spoken in South Africa. Other languages spoken in South Africa, though not mentioned in the Constitution, include Fanagalo, Lobdu, Northern Ndebele, Fadi. Lobdu has been variously claimed to be a dialect of Northern Sotho and an autonomous language. Fanagalo is a pidgin often used as a mining lingua franca. Significant numbers of immigrants from Europe, elsewhere in Africa, and the Indian subcontinent means that a wide variety of other languages can also be found in parts of South Africa. In the older immigrant communities there are Greek, Gujarati, Hindi, Portuguese, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu, Yiddish, Italian and smaller numbers of Dutch, French and German speakers. These non-official languages may be used in limited semi-official use where it has been determined that these languages are prevalent. More importantly, these languages have significant local functions in specific communities whose identity is tightly bound around the linguistic and cultural identity that these non-official SAR languages signal. The fastest growing non-official language is Portuguese, first spoken by black and white settlers and refugees from Angola and Mozambique after they won independence from Portugal, and thereby more recent immigrants from those countries again, and increasingly French, spoken by immigrants and refugees from Francophone Central Africa. More recently, speakers of North, Central and West African languages have arrived in South Africa, mostly in the major cities, especially in Johannesburg and Pretoria, but also Cape Town and Durban. Constitutional Provisions. Chapter 1, Section 6 of the Constitution of South Africa is the basis for government language policy. The English text of the Constitution, signed by President Nelson Mandela on 16 December 1996, uses the names of the languages expressed in those languages themselves. Sesotho refers to Southern Sotho, and Ndebele refers to Southern Ndebele. Controversy surrounds the designation of Northern Sesotho as Sepeda instead of the comprehensive Sesotho Sa-Lebo. The spelling of Venda is also incorrectly rendered as Shavenda instead of the correct Shavenda. The Constitution mentions sign language in the generic sense rather than, as is widely believed, South African Sign Language specifically. The official languages of the Republic are Sepeda, Sesotho, Tswana, Siswati, Xhosa, Tsonga, Afrikaans, English, Ndebele, Xhosa and isiZulu. Recognizing the historically diminished use and status of the indigenous languages of our people, the state must take practical and positive measures to elevate the status and advance the use of these languages. The national government and provincial governments may use any particular official languages for the purposes of government, taking into account usage, practicality, expense, regional circumstances and the balance of the needs and preferences of the population as a whole or in the province concerned, but the national government and each provincial government must use at least two official languages. Municipalities must take into account the language usage and preferences of the residents. The national government and provincial governments, by legislative and other measures, must regulate and monitor the use of official languages. Without detracting from the provisions of subsection, all official languages must enjoy parity of esteem and must be treated equitably. A pan-South African language board established by national legislation must promote and create conditions for the development and use of all official languages, the Khoi, Nama and San languages, and Sign language, and promote and ensure respect for all languages commonly used by communities in South Africa, including German, Greek, Gujarati, Hindi, Portuguese, Telugu, Tamil and Urdu, and Arabic, Hebrew, Sanskrit and other languages used for religious purposes in South Africa.